know if Leo and Sandy um will also be joining us today?
Let me see. Mm.
If not, Ray, you get a lot of attention tonight. It's just me and you.
Let me see. So maybe 1 minute, okay?
Okay, no
Yeah.
problem.
Oh, Leo say he will be late.
Okay, no worries. I think that we can probably get started and
Okay.
Leo and Barry can jump in.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
All right. So, hello, Sandy. Welcome again. So, today we are going to continue our class and discussions about how we give our opinions. And today will be mostly a day to practice. So I want to give you, both of you, and then also Leo and Barry when they arrive, a lot of opportunity to speak today. And what I'm hoping we can do is also get you all in a conversation with each other. So when we get to a little bit further along, I definitely want to make sure that we will talk about some ways to ask about your opinion, which is pretty straightforward, I think. Now that you all know how to give your opinion, asking is pretty good on that, or it's pretty easy after you know how to give your opinion. So let's get started. So, as it says, it's a good day for an Olympic chat. So, we're going to do a lot of chatting today. Okay. So, first, we're going to talk about the Olympic history, but I want to give you also, just in case, and then also the observers and everyone else in the class, an opportunity to see the video that you all watched. So, you can see the questions here on my screen of what we're going to talk about after the video. So I think the questions were two that I already asked. The is hosting the Olympics good or bad for the country and city where the games are held? And then number three was what I asked in homework as well. Do you think Taipei should try to host the Olympics? Why or why not? So let's just watch our video. I will share my screen and we'll get started today. Okay, here we go.
It only snows about 4 days a year. Yet that didn't stop the International Olympic Committee from awarding it the Winter Games in 2022. There weren't a lot of
I couldn't see the video.
contenders.
I'm sorry?
Did you share your screen?
Oh, I thought I did. Maybe it didn't go through. I'm so sorry. Let me
That's
just
okay.
do that one more time. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that, class. Okay, I will restart. Okay.
About what Beijing is known for, snow doesn't come to mind. It only snows about 4 days a year. Yet that didn't stop the International Olympic Committee from awarding it the Winter Games in 2022. There weren't a lot of options. The only other contender was Almaty, Kazakhstan. Even though the Olympics are the pride and joy of a country, most don't want to host the Games anymore. A record 11 cities bid for the 2004 Olympics. That dwindled down to 5 for 2020, and it's kept falling. After 3 cities dropped out of the 2024 race, that left Paris and Los Angeles. So the IOC gave them to the French capital and decided LA would do the honors in 2028. So why does no one want to host the Olympics anymore? The Olympic Games are really expensive to host. Every single one in the past few decades has gone over their estimated cost, and the postponed 2020 Tokyo Olympics are expected to be no different. And you, the taxpayer, are responsible for paying a good portion of the bill. Beijing's Bird's Nest Stadium for the 2008 Olympics cost 480 million. Located not too far away is the Aquatic Center, 140 million. Then there's the Olympic Village where the athletes live. Rio de Janeiro built these condos for 700 million, which was actually not a lot compared to the $3 billion subway line that didn't even extend all the way to the Olympic venue. And ever since 2001, security costs have gone up, with London dishing out 870 million for its 2012 games. So many other expenses that might not be obvious can add up, like building hotels in some cases, because the IOC requires 40,000 rooms be available for the summer games, or reserving special lanes for athletes and officials, and having a media center for journalists, which is not cheap. Networks pay a lot for the rights to broadcast the games, and spending has soared over the years. The host city gets some of the revenue, but less than they used to. The IOC pockets about half of it. In the end, cities have been spending more than they earn, and they justify the costs in the hopes the games will leave behind a legacy. But in the case of Brazil, it's not the legacy they wanted. When Rio de Janeiro became the first South American city to host the Olympics in 2016, it was a moment of national pride. Most of the sporting events took place in a remote region in the western zone of Rio, at the newly built Olympic Park for $500 million US. But when the games ended, everything fell apart. In January 2020, a judge ordered it shut down over safety concerns. And the iconic Maracana Stadium, which held the opening and closing ceremonies, was abandoned after the games. Vandals ripped out thousands of seats. The state was so saddled down by the $13 billion cost of the games, it couldn't pay its teachers on time, let alone take care of its Olympic venues. And the Athletes Village was supposed to sell as luxury condos, but most of the units still sit empty. People are speaking out about the consequences of hosting the games. A group in Boston actually put a stop to their city's 2024 bid. So is it possible there could be no Olympics one day? The IOC knows there's a problem. In its 2020 agenda, it listed recommendations, as it's done in previous years, to shape the future of the Olympic movement. One of the key points is including sustainability in all aspects of the Games, which also means making sure the Games don't break the bank. That will be put to the test in 2024. Organizers of the Paris Games say they're pretty much using what they have instead of building more, because 95% of the infrastructure it needs already exists. Beach volleyball will be played by the Champ de Mars green space. Archery will take place outside Les Invalides, a complex of museums and monuments. Fencing and taekwondo will be held inside the historic exhibition hall, Grand Palais. Making the most of what you have worked out for Los Angeles when it hardly constructed any venues for the 1984 Olympics and made a profit of 250 million. LA didn't feel the pressure to build after seeing how the 1976 Games nearly broke Montreal. The Olympic Stadium alone cost over $1 billion. It took Canadians 30 years to pay off the debt. And the province of Quebec still spends millions maintaining the stadium, even though no major sports team uses it. Avoiding maintenance fees is the reason Pyeongchang decided.
Okay, we're going to stop there for that video and begin our discussion. Okay. So let's start with our first question, and we'll start with Ray. What did you find most interesting about the video or the information in the video? Let me phrase a different way. Were you surprised by any information that you heard in the video?
Oh, I remember the video said in Beijing, China, this city only snow 4 days a year.
But they were picked to hold the Winter Olympics in 2022. So that's very interesting. I think of the Winter Olympics in places like Russia, Canada, Norway, places that have a lot of snow and a lot of cold weather. But Beijing, maybe not, with only 4 days of snow. So, what do you think they will do? How will they have ski slopes and how will they do all of the other winter sports that should be outside or need to be outside? What do you think they will do?
Mm, mm, uh, is it possible uh, they made that by machine?
Yes, that they make it by machine. So that is, I think that that is one possibility that they make the snow by machine, and so that is a possibility. And some places even ski resorts in the winter time. Sometimes I lived in California for a lot of years, and sometimes the mountains in California don't get a lot of snow because we've had drought for many years. And so sometimes when the mountains don't have snow or enough snow, they'll make snow so that they can still open and have a ski season. So that is a possibility. But I think you still need the mountains and stuff. And that might cost a lot of money because it costs money to make the snow, and if the mountains aren't very close to Beijing, it'll take a lot of money to transport people to the mountains. Maybe they might need to build more buildings near the mountains. So that will cost a lot of money. What about you, Sandy? What is something that you found interesting or surprising?
They use lots of money to build a stadium.
Yes, hundreds of millions of dollars. It's so much, sometimes billions of dollars to build a new stadium. And then what happens to the stadium after the Olympics? What happens?
Uh, because after the Olympics, the stadium uh, there is no one want to use the stadium, so the stadium will be uh like a
Vacant. Vacant. That's a word you can use. The stadium will be vacant.
like
Yeah, vacant. And vacant is a word. Oh, thank you, Luke. Vacant is a word that we use, of course, for empty buildings or buildings that don't have anyone who is using the building or who is paying rent for the building. So these big stadiums that seat 100,000 people, no one uses them anymore. And so that's a lot of money to spend on something that will only be used for 3 weeks at the most, because usually the Olympics take place over 3 weeks. So, okay, so let's think about our second question. Is hosting the Olympics a good or bad idea for the country or city where the games are being held? Do you think that it's a good? Do you think it's good or bad? Now, while you think, Ray, look at our boxes here. So we can see our boxes. So remember, we're giving our opinions and we want to practice some of our language for giving opinions. So, Ray, what do you think? Is it a good or a bad idea to host the Olympics?
Uh, mm, uh, in my view, it's good to host Olympics to represent the progress and status uh, of of the country.
Yes. So they mentioned that for Brazil. When Brazil hosted the 2016 Olympics, it was a sense of national pride because they were the first country in South America to ever host an Olympic Games. And so that was a sense of pride. It made the country feel special and feel that they, like you said, they could show how much progress and the status of where their country was on the world stage. So that's very good. What about you, Sandy? Do you agree? Do you disagree?
Uh, I think there is no absolute bad and good because to the country or city, hosting the Olympic is an honor. But if you want to host this kind of activity, you also need to spend a lot of hard work on it.
Yeah, that's true. So it can be good and bad. In the case of, let's say, Los Angeles in 1984, they used a lot of buildings and stadiums that they already had. And so they didn't have to spend a lot of money or take a lot of time on construction to build the buildings. They could just use what they already have. But in a case like Brazil, oh, they built so much, $1.5 billion dollars on a subway, on a train. That's so much money. And now it may or may not be used anymore or used as frequently. Okay. So now how about Sandy? How about the number three? Since you think it could be good and bad to host the Olympics, do you think Taipei should try to host the Olympics?
Oh,
Uh,
Quentin,
I,
Leo is with us. So do you
Oh,
want to answer the second question first?
oh, you know what? Yes, how about that? Thank you. Thank you. I have my chat box open. Oh, there you are. It covered Leo's face. Hi, Leo. Welcome. So, Leo, we are talking about the video that you watched for homework. And so what do you think? Is it a good or a bad thing to host the Olympics? Oh, you might be muted. Oh, we still can't hear you. Sorry, Leo. Oh, no, we still can't hear you. How
不然你
about
先
this?
拔掉那个 headset 好了，你先拔掉看看。来，Leo,
We can
have you
hear you now.
try again?
这样听得到了吗？
也可以，Yes, please.
I think hosting the Olympics because I think it can let the country becomes more famous and let everybody knows their culture.
So it can make a country more famous and let everyone know their culture. That's
Yeah.
true. That's true. For a place like maybe Brazil, which I think is still a very well-known country around the world, but maybe not as much as China or the United States. And so for a country like that, it really does bring a lot of visibility to that city. So a lot of people get to see it and get to learn about that city. That's true, Leo. Okay, so Sandy, what do you think? Should Taipei try to host the Olympics?
uh, I don't think Taipei should try to host the Olympics because it costs too much money.
Okay. Yes, it does cost a lot of money. Yep. But now, what about you, Ray? Do you agree or disagree?
Uh, 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 agree or disagree, Sandy?
Yeah, with Sandy. Sandy does not think that Taipei should try to host the Olympics because it's so expensive. So do you agree with Sandy or disagree with Sandy?
I agree.
And why?
Uh, uh, okay. First, uh, hosting Olympic will spend a fortune. And second, uh, we need to build many stadiums, and it may break the environment in the process of create the building.
Ah, yes, okay. So it will hurt the environment or damage the environment. So hurt the environment, damage the environment, building the buildings, and it just costs too much money. Too much money. That's a very good point that you bring up about the environment and having to tear down and destroy maybe the forest to build buildings, or even maybe the pollution and all of the chemicals that might run into the ocean or into the sea or into the rivers. It's something that is a very big concern. What about you, Leo? Do you agree or disagree? Do you think that Taipei should hold the Olympics?
Um, I agree with Ray.
Okay, too much, it costs too much money.
And Taipei hasn't have enough resource to hold the Olympics.
Okay, doesn't have enough resources. So we want to make that one plural. Resources. Doesn't have enough resources to hold the Olympics. Good. Because we did learn that one way that some cities keep from spending too much money is that they use what they already have. So what you're saying, Leo, is that Taipei doesn't have enough stadiums and those types of in apartment buildings and places where the athletes could live for 3 weeks. They don't have enough of that to host the Olympics. Okay. And Barry, welcome. I know that you are just stopping in, but we're talking about the video that you watched for homework. And so we've heard a few people. I don't think so far, no one thinks that Taipei should hold the Olympics. What about you, Barry? Do you agree or disagree?
Hmm. Uh, I think Taipei uh uh I s- I don't disagree Taipei to uh Olympic.
Okay, so you don't think Taipei should hold the Olympics.
Yes.
Okay, so you agree with your classmates. Okay. It is definitely difficult. I know that for me, since Los Angeles, where I used to live, they're holding the Olympics in 2028. I was really excited that they were going to hold the Olympics, but I was more excited because they have a plan to use a lot of the stadiums that we already have. So the same Olympic stadium that we used in 1984 for the Olympics, it still exists, and it's where the University of Southern California, USC, that's where they play football. is in the Coliseum, which is where the old Olympic Stadium. So they're going to use that again. And other places like where the Lakers play, Staples Center, they'll use that stadium. And so there are a lot of stadiums in infrastructure like roads and highways that they already have. And so that's a good reason why I think LA is prepared, I think, to host the Olympics. Okay. So good job on that. So our next topic, we're going to talk about how athletes train. So, can anyone tell me what I mean when I say how athletes train? What is training? What is that? Training.
Prepare for a game.
Yeah, exactly. To prepare. So when we train, usually when we think about athletics, we use the word train to prepare. So athletes prepare, but we usually say that they train, and that is their preparation. So it's training can be anything from getting stronger or actually practicing the sport. So maybe when you're training, you might practice your free throws in basketball, or maybe you practice the different strokes in swimming. But that is training. Okay. How about our next word here? Fitness. So we're going to go over some vocabulary that you'll hear in the next video, just so you're ready. Okay. So fitness. What is fitness? All right. So fitness is things like exercise or things that work out your body and get your heart pumping and make you sweat. These are things like fitness, endurance, or being fit. Have you heard someone say that you should be fit or that it's good to be fit? That means it's good to be strong and to have good cardiovascular, so your heart to have good to be able to run and your heart pumps very nicely and you don't get tired just from running or doing exercise. So that is fitness. It's something that you being active and being able to move. Athletes usually are fit because they have good fitness. They have good they are fit. That's where that word comes from. Okay, so now let's talk about strength. Strength. Who can tell me about strength? Does anyone know that word? Strength. Ooh. Well, you don't think you can see me. Here we go. Oh, ah, strength. So that is strength. Strength is something that you have in your muscles. So if you have lots of strength, that means that you're very strong. You can lift things that are very heavy if you have lots of strength. So strength is something that many athletes want to have because they want to be strong to compete in their sports. Okay? Vitamins. Vitamins. Anyone? We can talk about vitamins and protein together because they're a little bit alike. So vitamins. Oh, Ray, were you going to say?
Uh, is vitamins something in fruits?
Yeah. Yeah, their vitamins are in fruits and they're in many other things that we eat. But they're nutrients. They are things that our food has in it that give us nourishment, that keep our bodies healthy. Our bodies need vitamins to keep us healthy. So you may have heard of vitamin C, which a lot of people take to keep them from getting sick. They take vitamin C, or you may have heard of vitamin D, which is something that we get from the sun. Our bodies turn the sun rays into vitamin D. And so that's another necessary vitamin. And so, just like vitamins, protein is also a nutrient. It's something that we need to make our muscles strong. So, protein, we find usually get a lot of protein in meats. That's one thing. If we say a protein, that could be a meat. We get protein. Um, peanut butter. Peanut butter has lots of protein. Um, yeah, so protein it's another nutrient. It's something that we need. Particularly, protein helps us, our muscles. Our muscles use a lot of protein. Okay, and last word is a kind of a 3 for 1. Okay, so the last word, ready? Fuel, fueling, or refuel. So what is fuel? What is that? What is fuel? Anyone?
I know refuel.
Refuel. What's refuel? What's refuel, Ray?
Is something that can provide energy.
Yes. Okay. So you just told me what fuel is. Fuel is something that provides energy. So just the word fuel, that's what that means. But when we refuel, that means that we get more fuel. So let's say I'm in a car, and a car takes gasoline. Gasoline is the fuel that you put in the car. You pump gasoline into your car. That is fuel. When your car runs out of gasoline, you have to refuel. So you refuel, you fill it back up with energy, with what it needs to run. And so fueling is also the act of putting fuel in something, or the act of using fuel. So you can fuel something up, fueling. And so fuel is a word that we can also use for ourselves. So what do you think? Can anyone give me an example of what fuel is for a human? What do we use as fuel? Sandy?
Maybe some meat or vegetable.
Yeah, yeah, meat or vegetables. Yeah, exactly. Our food. Our food is our fuel. And maybe sometimes what you drink, because maybe you make a special shake and so you drink that. But our food, what we eat, is our fuel. Okay. One other special note before we play the video. You might hear the person say vitamins. Vitamins. Vitamins are vitamins. It's just the British way of pronouncing that word. So you might hear vitamins, and that's vitamins. It's just a different way to say it in British English. So just a little tip for our exercise. Okay. So during the activity, think about these questions. If you were an athlete, what would be the hardest part of training for you? What would be the easiest part, or what would you like best about being an athlete? And then number 3, would it be easier to play a team sport or an individual sport? Okay. So just think about those while you watch the video. Okay. Here we go.
Three years ago, Helen Glover was on top of the world, winning gold in the women's coxless pair at London 2012. And now, a year out from Rio 2016, she's ramping up as she looks to defend her title. And that means extensive training over the next 12 months, both on and off the water.
My regime at the moment is totally different to when I first started. It was really important in the early days and early years, actually, to build up incredibly slowly to make sure my fitness and my strength were good enough for every step and every stage. Now I'm fortunate enough to be on a full-time training program, so training is my job. I get up 6:30 in the morning. First breakfast is a really important meal for us to make sure I get some good vitamins and some good protein before I do my first session. 2 hours on the water, probably in a pair with Heather standing and myself, and we'll go and we'll do our long session of the day. So it's usually long, slow and steady, and that's just to get that aerobic capacity maximised, to get that training base done, so it's really kind of churning through the miles first thing in the morning. I then have a second breakfast. Eating is very important for rowers, so we're constantly fueling throughout the day. Second session is usually another water session or on the rowing machine. Again, we have lunch, make sure we're refueled, which is followed by a weight session in the gym. It's really important to have a very good core when you're to protect your back and make sure all the work that you're doing is going into making the boat go faster. So a lot of the time will be spent doing things like plank and things that are going to help keep our stomach strong. The main lifts that we do, the big lifts, are going to be the squats and cleans, as well as bench press and bench pull, all things that are really important for rowers' conditioning and strength. And for the evening meal, it's making sure you've fully refueled and are preparing yourself for the next day, not just the day that you've just had. That's the kind of time in the day where you can easily eat some chocolate or eat some cake or something like that. And that's definitely the purpose of being a rower, is that the amount of calories that you consume during the day is definitely reflected in the amount of training that we do.
While Helen's life now revolves around rowing, it was a sport she came to late in life, taking it up just 4 years before her Olympic.
Okay, so that's where we will stop that video. And so, what did you think about that video? I know, what was one of the main things that you took from that video? What did you learn about athletes and how they train in that video? Ray, what did you learn? Anything new? That's okay. Think about it. How does anyone? What about Sandy? Sandy, what did you learn? What is something that caught your attention in the video?
What food you eat is also important to an athlete.
How much food you eat is important to an athlete.
What food?
What food? Okay. What food you eat is important to an athlete. Yes. And okay, so what food? That's good. So the types, like, can an athlete just eat pizza every day? No, they can't. No, that probably wouldn't be a good idea. Right. How about Leo?
I think I learned some. She say, be an athlete, you should have a right diet, and you must have enough protein and vitamins.
Yeah, enough proteins and vitamins. That is correct. And they train a lot. Hmm. They do a lot of training. Barry, did you find anything else interesting about the video, or did you learn anything from what you saw?
No.
Okay. Yeah, no. I think a lot of people know that athletes train a lot. But one thing that surprised me, and not just in this video, but other videos that I watched when preparing for this class, was just, to be an athlete, especially an Olympic athlete, that is their job. They train for hours and hours a day. The rower, the lady that we just saw, it starts at 6:30 in the morning. She eats and then goes to the water and rows for 2 hours, has another breakfast, rows again, goes to the gym, lifts weights, does the rowing machine. It's all day. So it's really a job, almost a career. Okay, so let's get started with our questions. So, Leo, if you were an athlete, what would be the hardest part about training for you?
Um, I think um, when you are doing the train, you will be very tired and you must have um, enough perseverance to do it. So
Yes, to keep going. So I want to say very good word, perseverance. Perseverance.
persevere.
Perseverance. Yeah, perseverance. So that means just the will to continue, the will to keep going. Perseverance. Great job, Leo, with that. Okay, so what do you think, Sandy? Do you agree or disagree with what Leo said? Do you think that's the hardest part?
Oh, yes,
I,
I agree.
you agree? Okay.
Yes,
Would it, you think it would be hard to continue to train day after day?
yes.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay. Now, for this next part, let's try a little something new. So for question 2 and 3, I will ask one student to answer the question first, and then that person will pick someone else and ask them their opinion about the question. And then after that, that person will ask someone else, and we'll go around to everyone, and you all ask each other what your opinions are. So this will be a little more practice in more of a natural conversation. So if you were talking to a friend or to someone that's not the teacher asking the students a question, if you were talking to each other. Okay? So I'll start it off by asking the question, and then you ask someone else what they think about it. Okay? So let's start with Barry. Okay? So for number 2, what would be the easiest part, or what would you like best about being an athlete?
Uh, I think is uh get uh the be a be a mm, competition.
The competition?
Yes.
Okay. So the competition is the best part. Competing against other people. That's the best part about being an athlete?
Yes.
Okay. Now ask one of your classmates what they think.
Uh, yeah. What would be the easiest part, or what would you like best about being a athlete?
Um, I think being an athlete, the best is you can do you like to do like exercise, basketball, like that to be a job. So that will be fun.
Oh, yes, that's a good point. You are doing what you like. Most people like to play the sport that they play. They like to play basketball. They like to play dodgeball. They like to play tennis. And so if you get to do that as a job, that's awesome. Okay. So Leo, now you ask someone
Uh,
else.
how about you, Ray?
Uh, I think be a athlete. Uh, you will lose or win, and the experience of it can help the athlete to find the mindfulness of their life.
Oh, okay. Now, mindfulness of their life, maybe we could say purpose in their life. Is that to have a purpose, to have a meaning to your life? Is that what you're trying to say?
Uh, is similar to yes.
Okay. Okay, similar to. Okay. So maybe to find purpose or meaning in your life, the athletes have that. Okay, and I think there's one more person. Ray, who are you going to ask now?
Uh, what do you think about it, Sandy?
Well, I agree with Leo. I think doing what you want to do is the best thing.
Ah, yes, that is the best. I think that for me, that would also probably be one of the best things about an athlete is that you're doing something you love. And also, it's really cool that athletes are always so physically fit and they're strong and can do all kinds of physical activities. I think that's pretty amazing. Okay, our third question. Ready? How about we start this time with Leo? So Leo, would it be easier to play a team sport or an individual sport? So thinking about the training and how much you have to practice, would it be easier to be on a team or to do it by yourself?
I think doing individual sport is easier than the team sport because team sport need to com- cooperate the other people.
Cooperate.
Oh,
Cooperate.
cooperate, cooperate
Cooperate.
to other people, and you will be very much time to do it. So they
Okay.
will be harder.
Yeah, that's a good point. So you have to cooperate with other people. We cooperate with other people. Okay. All right. So that's very difficult. Yeah. All right. Continue on our conversation, Leo. Who's next? Continue it.
Uh, how about you, Barry?
Uh, I think is uh I think i- I think is find someone play with you.
All right. So it's hard. It's hard to find someone to play with you.
I think it's easier.
Oh, easier. Okay. Okay. So it's easier to find someone to play with you. That's true. That's true on a team sport. And it might also be, well, I'll actually wait. Let's see what everyone else has to say. So who else will you ask, Barry? Who's next? I think we have Sandy and Ray. our two people left?
Ray, would it be easier to play a team sport or an individual sport?
Individual sport.
Individual sport.
Good.
Uh, uh, I think they are the same because each sports each sport has its way to train or to play, and uh, someone uh, fits some sports. So I don't think uh, 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 one sport can be easier than the other sports.
That's a great point. I love that answer, Ray, because I think you are right. Yes, that's true. It might each sport has things that are easy and difficult. And even though it's an individual sport, there might be some things that are difficult to do. And same with a team sport. Just because you have more people, it may be difficult, like Leo said, to cooperate with each other and to communicate with each other on the team. So that's a good point. All right, Ray.
Okay, it's your turn, Seth.
Okay. Uh, I think it would be more easier. Uh,
Oh, easier, just
e-
easier. It will be easier.
easier. It will be easier to play team sports because I think when you do an individual sports, maybe when you are training, maybe you will feel lonely. Yeah, because you do the train on by yourself, all by yourself.
Oh, that is a good point. At least when you're on a team, you get to train with other people. And so it's fun. They become your friends. You maybe hang out and do fun things like go to the movies or other activities together. So there are more people and there are more friends that you can make and have fun playing with. That's a good point, Sandy. All right. Good job, you all. So that was a little just I know it was pretty easy to go back to from each student to each student, but that's a little bit of a taste of having a more natural conversation where most times when we talk to people, they may ask us something and then we ask them what their opinion is. And so that's a good back and forth. That's a good thing to do in conversation to give your opinion and then ask others what their opinions are. Okay? Okay. So now, the final thing for our last few minutes, I just want to discuss a little bit about the final project and our next class. So, my apologies to for you, but we will not have class this upcoming Friday. Our next class will actually be on Monday. So I believe Barry, Leo, Ray, and maybe Sandy. I think you have some your new school you may be starting. But if you are here, our next thing we're going to talk about is the final project. So for your final project, and I want you all to make a presentation or to write a little paragraph about, I want you that you will present to the class. And there's going to be three different topics that you can choose from. And so you'll write a report to present to the class, which you'll pick one of three topics to present. And your goal, what you want to try to do is to write at least 7 or 8 sentences, which should be about 2 minutes of time when you read it for the class and when you present it to the class. Okay? And so let's look at the topics. Topic option number 1 is your favorite Olympic sport. Favorite Olympic sport. And so in this one, if you choose topic 1, you will tell the class about the sport and why you like it. And then you will compare it to another sport. How is it different? How is it better? These are the things you'll want to talk about. So, what are we doing? We're going to practice more of giving our opinion. So, which sport you like and why you like it. And then we're going to practice our comparatives and superlatives. So, when we compare 2 or more things, we will use these types of words. So, for example, let's say we pick basketball. And so we will want to compare that to another sport. Let's say we compare it to football. We could say that basketball is easier than football because you don't have to run as much. There is less running in basketball. Or maybe you could say basketball is better than football because the the players score more points. So it's more exciting. It's more exciting. So those are 2 ways we could do it. Easier, more exciting, but we're going to compare it to another sport. Okay? So how is it different? How's it better? Using those comparatives and superlatives. Okay? Our second topic that you could choose is a famous Olympian. So a famous person who has been in the Olympics. All right. So what we'll answer about that is, who is the athlete? What did they play? Why do you like them? And then, similar to our last question, compare them to another athlete. So maybe in this case, let's talk tennis. So maybe you'll pick Federer, and you might compare Federer to Djokovic. And you might say that Federer is better because he has a faster serve, or Federer is better because he has won more majors than Djokovic. So that's a way that you could talk about comparing your athlete to another athlete. What skills, and then secondly, you can also say what skills do they have that other athletes don't have. So that's another way to do that exercise. And last, if you choose topic number 3, it's the best host city. So this might take a little research, but you get to pick a city that has held the Olympics and pick your favorite one. So, where is the place that you pick? When did it host the Olympics? What do you like about the city or country? And then, you guessed it, compare it to other places that have held the Olympics. So maybe you will say, Los Angeles was a better host city than Rio de Janeiro because they spent less money. So these are the types of things, these are your 3 options. Now remember, you only have to pick one. You don't have to do all 3. Just pick your favorite topic and write your report about that. And you'll present those to the class on Monday. All right. So I know that we are at our time for today. And so are there any questions about the final project? You can also read about this in Google Classroom. I've posted all of the directions and instructions in Google Classroom. Okay? All right. Sounds good.
Okay, let's unmute your microphone. And please say thank you, Teacher Quentin.
Thank you, Teacher Quentin.
Quentin.
Yeah, we'll
You're
see you next Tuesday, our time, Monday,
Yes.
your time. Okay?
Yes, Tuesday. I'm sorry. Yes, Tuesday, our next class. Okay. Bye,
All right.
class. See you next
Bye.
time. Bye.